Hi, folks. I want to address this. I'm going to do a demo of one of the programming problems on page 187. Ignore the date. And, this is all future labs and my future classes with it. This is just a date that happens to be this semester that I'm handling with it. But please refer to the date that's on your assignment with this. Disregard this date. But the problem I'm going to work here is 180 on page 187, Problem Programming Challenge 1. Unit 3, or Chapter 3, is a very, very important chapter for you to understand and how you write your code with this thing, because understanding UML is where I would like for you to start with the proper attributes and fields with this thing. And please understand how this actually works with it as well, because the reason part of understanding UML is later on you leave here, you're going to be working in your junior level class or your senior level classes, whether you're computer science or engineering students with it, you're going to be working with the students with C++, Python, C#. But what everybody should have such a skill is reading UMLs, Unified Model Language with this thing. So let's take a look at this thing. This is a page 187, number 1 with the employee class. It says, write a class name employee that has the following fields. So you have, here's the employee name. It has to be in a box like this with 3 rows. All right. So you come in and you look at the 3 bullets it has. It has name, ID number, department, and position. Each one of these things, they tell you what data type it is. So name, for example, everything that we do in here, they're all private. You start as private. There's 3 types of category. There's private, there's public. Private is a minus, public is a plus, and there's what's called protected. So what you don't see here is the protected is actually this with the circle around. We don't use here. So for the purpose of this course, all the fields that we use are private. I'll explain to you why. That's the reason for that. All the methods in this second and third row right here are all public. There's a reason for that. All right, so when we get into deeper, we're going to get more explanation for this thing. Look at this right here. When you have name, for example, and they would tell you this is a string. So we're going to actually just do a UML. So what starts out as a name and what you actually put into this name right now is you type the name, the identifier, and you tell it string. What not to do here is code in any programming language. You can't come here and just say string name, semicolon. No. This is UML language. So this is across the board that you would actually do a private, the name, the variable, fields, whatever you want to call this, to store. This is a data type. The next one is ID, number. And number, ID number, is what? Is an int. They tell you that in your reading. It's an int variable with it. So I'd like for you to do the next two. Next to is department and position. So please go in and fill in this for me with it. After you do that, I want to talk to you about the next box. The third row right here is what's called, in the UMLs, where you write your methods. You write your methods. Now, I haven't talked too much about how you can actually, if you recall, methods and functions. And those of you that had me for 1436, I talked to you about, there's a section in there, and how you can overload a function. Okay? So, for example, I'm going to write to you what is a constructor. I'm just going to demo this, but I'm not going to include this. So all methods that we write in here, in this case, we're going to use our call employee. This is a method. This is a constructor. In your reading, it tells you what is a constructor. A constructor is anytime you want to actually set a value to a field. Okay? If there is a certain default value that you want to set, and if you use a constructor. The second point is, this class is going to default to this first method. How do I know it's a constructor? Well, look, constructors are methods. This first method is the same name as class. You see that? And we're going to actually look at this, and which is the same name the file is, right? Remember the 3 connection. The same name as the class. Your class has the same name as your file name. So 3 things that has to be straight on board with it. So let me give you some demos and what we're about to do. This is another public class. So this is, I can't do this. I have to have a different signature. What's a signature? Signature is the one that the parameter or argument inside this. So inside this, I can do this. So if this is name, I can actually do string, and an ID number. I can do this. This will work, you know. And I can do, what's the department? String. And the last one is position. It's also a string. This will work. Now, you can't have two variables, you can't have two constants, but you can have two methods. And the way you can do that is you overload the method with a different signature. So this is one way. The second way I can actually do mix and match, I don't care, but is, what do you have? You can actually just do this part. I can just do this. This will work. This is a different signature. Don't you agree? Three of these are all different. So just to let you know, what does it mean when I overload a particular method or overload a function? All these are perfectly fine. Just to make things simple, I'm not going to code all this at this time. So I want to go back to methods and getters and explain to you what this thing. So in your reading, it talks to you about getters and setters, right? So a couple of things that I want to clarify when we get to these things. So think of these are fields or attributes, names, ID number, and departments and positions. All these are fields. So what do you do in a field? Well, you can write to them or you can read from them, right? So if you want to write to or make changes to it, we call those what? Mutators, right? And if you want to, mutators are the same things as what's called setters, which are, if you think of an analogous, is basically we're writing to it. The second one is what's called assessors, which is equivalent to what? Getters, which is equivalent to what? You read. So if you think of it like a simple term, read and write to these fields. And that's what the methods that you're going to be writing to are, creating these two with it. So let me do the first one for you, just for simplicity. I'm just going to do a couple of them each, and I like for you to do the rest of this thing because like I said, I'm not going to do the whole homework for you. That's not fair. You're not going to learn anything, right? So the first one. We look at this thing. All the methods in this course, I want you to write as public. Okay, this is a public method that it's going to be accessed from other classes going to access this thing. So you think of it, here's where the public comes in. You come into this thing, and this is going to be a public. Now you got four fields. I'm going to do the first one is the setters. I'm going to do all four setters, meaning I want four methods to write to four fields, and then I'm going to do four getters. So that makes it a total of 8 methods in all. 8 methods in all that goes in here. I'm going to do the first couple ones so you can get the hang of it. The first one is going to be a public, right? So what do you do for a public methods with it? So you do public set name, and inside, now remember, no Java code, in string, right? So you can actually give it a data type for this thing, close that out, and you put a colon, and you can do void. Okay? So what does this mean? What does this mean? You will write a method that's called public, second word is called void, which writes to it that with the method name is set name, and you're going to pass across an argument in with the string data type. Okay? We're going to have to write this so precise later on when we get this to the code. Let me do the second one for you in that field. What's the second one? Is the ID number is an int, right? So you start with public. You can do set what? Set ID number, and inside of that you're going to pass across is what? N, call it num, and the data type is an int, and it is a void. Okay, so when you write the method, how are you going to read this? Public void set ID number, and you pass across is int num. Okay, so make sure, I would like for you to do the rest of this. Write the other two setters for me. Let me do a getter for you. Still public. Now getters are what? You're going to read it. Return something to me. Okay? So let's do a getter. get what? Name. Whoops, sorry, this isn't long there. Get name method, and then this get name method, what are you returning? The data type is the string. Again, no Java code at all. I'm going to do one more for you so you can get the hang of this thing. I'm going to do public get name. That's not get name. We just did get name. I'm sorry. Get ID. Get ID number. I'm looking at the wrong field. ID number. And what are you returning is an int. Okay? And I would like for you to complete the other two that's in here. So when you're done with this thing, you're gonna have 8, 4, 4. 4 getters, 4 setters. Got it? So please complete that. Now I'm gonna move on to step 2 in this problem right here. I want to have you write the class code in this thing. So if you haven't done so, fire up your notepad. I have notepad over here, so let me just bump that over. We put this on the side over here so you can see. Check the time. Whoop, on over.